more than I wanted to see for my age. You know, first dead soldier I saw was about a 20-year-old German back up against the trench. He had his mess tin in this hand and a biscuit in this hand. He was deader than a doornail.
Robert Thornton, who is now 89, was only 16 when he signed up to protect our freedom.
I enlisted in the reserve in 1942 in Windsor. There was an Armored Corps unit. I spent about 9 months in that organization. Then I decided to join up and see if I could get into the service. I was only 16 years old. And I passed. I got shipped to Camp Ipperwash, did my basic training, advanced training. Then I volunteered for a draft to go overseas. And I went overseas on the Queen Mary. And supposedly 14,000 troops on board that ship. It was cramped. You only ate twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. The rest of the time they're going to the canteen when it was open, and you'd get biscuits or cookies and coffee or Pepsi, whatever is available to you. I think it was 4 days and 20 hours later we landed in Greenock, Scotland. And we had no idea how we were going to get off that ship, because it's humongous. And the guy says, don't worry about it, they'll throw you off, you'll be able to swim to shore, you know. So the time came, they called us, and they just removed a plate right out of the side of the ship, put some stairs down, put us on a ferry, and took us over to the dock. We waited till there was enough people to get on the train, and we went to Aldershot, England. That's the training camp. It's 3CIRU, it's called, Canadian Infantry Reinforcement Unit. I was there doing my training, doing this and that, and I wrote my father a letter and told him I was in England.
There have been generations of Thorntons to have served in the military, and once Robert arrived in England, he was reunited with his father, who was an acting sergeant at the time.
And the first thing he says, what the hell are you doing over here? I said, I don't know, you're here. We went down to the pub and had a pint of beer and sort of got reacquainted, because I hadn't seen my dad since I was about 12. That's one of the reasons I enlisted. I wanted to see my father again. And we hooked up, everything was okay. We did various moves going to this place and that place, and it was all, well, they were practicing for D-Day. This is what the whole thing was all about. And we'd be here for 2 days, 3 days there, a week here. Then finally, we landed in Dover, England. Weren't allowed to go out anywhere. You couldn't, no passes. You could stay within a 5-mile radius of the camp, and that was it. And then we were told D-Day had taken place. So we were all getting all hyped up and, you know, getting a little excited. One thing and another, and I said to my dad, well, where do you think we're going to go? He says, well, the way we're looking here, he says, I think we're going to land in France. And we landed about D-Day plus 21. They had just got off the beaches, and they were fighting for Caen at the time. And we stayed there till they moved, and we moved with them. We were a corps outfit, and our corps outfit, our job was to make sure that they had ammunition, make sure they were going in the right direction. They were talking aircraft to ground and trying to keep up with the battle. And this is when they were in Caen, and then they were just heading to Fly Gap. And while we were in the lower part of France where we were bombed twice, once by the British, once by the Canadians. Or no, once by the Americans, once by the Canadians. And that sort of gave us a little fear, but they said that what had happened, the ground troops had advanced so fast, and the communications between aircraft and ground crew were lost. So they just pushed on ahead, and when they were sent out on a raid, that's what happened. From there, we just proceeded right on, and well, we went to France. In France, we went to Ghent, Belgium. Ghent, Belgium, we went to a very small community. We were there billeted while the troops were in Nijmegen, about 12 miles away, and then we were hitting around Christmas time, and things slowed down a little bit. But after we got by Christmas, and they started to proceed, and we got into the Reichswald Forest in Germany. I think we were only there about a week. And I said to my dad, I gotta go to the hospital. He says, what's the matter? I said, well, I'll go and talk to the EMO, but I thought I had a hernia. Well, he says, go ahead and go in. And the war was still on. It hadn't ended yet. We went into Germany. We got into the Reichswald Forest, and we stayed there. And that's when they called me and said, get ready, you're going back into Antwerp for examination, probably surgery. So I said, oh, okay. So that was the last time I seen my dad, only one visit, and then the war ended. And my dad came home early because they had what they call points. The more points you had, the quicker you went home.
The war was a very difficult time for the soldiers. As Robert says, there were many sleepless nights.
When they're coming over with the bombers and stuff like that, and we were in the Reichswald Forest, and we had dug trenches and put trees on top of them, lugged them over, put them on top of guys that sleep in there 4 or 5 at a time, and you just parked yourself wherever you could park. We had bell tents, but you hear the aircraft coming over, and you'd say, get out of here, go and jump in the trench. These 2 medals belong to my great-grandfather, who fought in the Battle of Tel el-Kebir in 1882 to 1889. My grandfather's medals, who fought in World War I, was wounded twice at Vimy Ridge. These medals belong to him.
Robert has many memories of his time served along with his dad's and stories of his great-grandfather's time, and says he'll never forget the day he got to meet his great-grandfather before he passed away.
My father took me to a little place outside of Salisbury Plains, 27 houses in the village, and my great-grandfather had a bake shop. And he was still alive when I went over there and I met him. It was a fantastic experience for me. I used to say this when I was 8 and 9 years old. Someday I'm going to meet my great-grandfather. What the hell did I know when I'm 8 years old, 9 years old? So I got over there. My dad took me in, introduced me to him. We had quite a chat, and I have my great-grandfather's medals in that case. They were passed on from my grandfather to my father and to me. I have one son in Washington that's going to ham all this when I go on to the big fire all in the sky, as they say.
There are many memories that Robert would like to forget from the war, but one of his good memories he'll never forget is his lady friend who was also in the military over in England, who he eventually married and had 3 kids with and lived happily together up until 1963 when she passed away. Robert also had become a firefighter and stayed with that for 31 years and retired in 1980. Robert did remarry and now lives happily with his wife and says he's proud to have served for our country.
I think if I'd have been a little bit younger, I would have joined up if I'd have been 14 or 15, if I could have got by the people. But I made it at 16 and I didn't complain.
And it's because veterans like Robert Thornton, we remember them on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For TV Coach Go News, I'm Samantha Johnson.